There's a nice little hideaway on the Sacramento River off of Riverside Boulevard in the south area. I guess this is a pretty long levee and you could walk it if you want, but there's also cool little wilderness areas where you could get down to the shoreline. Hi, I'm Alex Cosper. Welcome to another edition of a Riverside Chat from SacTV.com. I'll try to say it differently every time. Oh. Yeah, so I put together the music section for SacTV, and it's really cool. When you go to SacTV.com and click music, you get a long list of local artists. And this type of format has been done before in the past on websites, but I just want you to know it's never been done this thoroughly before. Like, it's a really long list of local artists, and when you click on the name, it gives you a pretty lengthy profile of the group, like, a little summary of their history, and then a list of videos to check out, music videos, and sometimes interviews. So I learned a lot about the local scene by doing this project. I mean, I put hours and hours, like hundreds of hours into this project. And I learned things like, I knew of a band called Sister Crayon in Sacramento back in 2012 or something like that. And I thought they were pretty good. I had no idea, though. I lost track of the local scene and just all of the bands, and didn't realize that they got signed to Warner Brothers, one of the biggest three labels. That was in 2016, but they only put out one album on Warner Brothers, and then I guess got dropped by the label, and one of the band members had left, and so then the main woman behind it, named Tara Lopez, she decided to go solo, I think, at least for future albums, but she's back on indie labels now. And also, I didn't know that Sister Crayon had moved to Los Angeles. So that's happened in the past, where you get artists that are signed that are originally from Sacramento, but then they become known as Los Angeles artists because they had moved to Los Angeles before they got signed. An example would be Fanny, the all-female rock band of the 60s. They were called something else, but then they got signed to Reprise, which was a Warner label. In other words, Warner was a parent label, and still is, of Reprise Records. And they were one of the first all-female bands signed to put out a rock album. And I believe it was like 1970 when they put out their first album. Anyway, Fanny only lasted until 1975. They broke up. They didn't want to be sex symbols, and that was what the label wanted. And at the time, that's how record labels wanted to portray women, as sex symbols. 60s, 70s sexual revolution. They didn't go for it. They were more deep hippie, deep Buddhism, just spiritual stuff. They weren't into the materialistic or the over-celebrated world of indulgences, self-indulgences, and appearances. They weren't into that. They were more of a blues rock band, and they did have a couple national hits on the top 40. But anyway, another example of an artist that came from Sacramento and then got signed, but after they left Sacramento and they moved to Los Angeles. That was Spiral Staircase. They had the 1969 hit More Today Than Yesterday. And that's one of the most memorable songs to ever come from a Sacramento artist. It almost made the top 10. Pat Upton was the singer. It had a very jazzy pop feel to it. And it's one of those oldies that has hung on and hasn't gone away. And I would put it as one of the best songs to come from a Sacramento artist, even though they had already moved to Los Angeles by the time they got signed to Columbia Records. There have been several artists signed out of Sacramento, or artists who originated from Sacramento and then got signed. One band that people talk about in the punk world is the Cramps. Now they were never a Sacramento band in the sense that they played in Sacramento before they got signed. But what happened was the Cramps, who later got signed to IRS Records, run by Miles Copeland, one of the most successful guys in punk and new wave music. He made a lot of artists happen, Miles Copeland III. Well, the Cramps was a husband and wife team. They were the leaders of the band, and they met each other in Sacramento in 1972. But they didn't form the Cramps until 4 years later, after they had left Sacramento. They left around maybe 73, and they went to Ohio, then New York. And in New York, they became the Cramps, and they played at CBGB's, which was the historic punk and new wave nightclub back in the 70s. So a lot of artists that came either from or through Sacramento on their way to becoming music stars have written big pages in music history, like Timothy B. Schmidt from Sacramento. I believe he went to Encina High, which was the high school next to mine. Mine was Rio Americano High. And anyway, Timothy B. Schmidt was a local artist in Sacramento, kind of well known in the 70s just as a local artist. And by the end of the decade was a member of the Eagles, who are the best-selling American band of all time. So that's amazing, right? That you have someone from Sacramento in a band of that stature. Timothy B. Schmidt, he's the one who sang the Eagles hit, I Can't Tell You Why. Great song. And then he's put out solo albums. So anyway, Sacramento has a lot of historic talent that I think more and more people would think were interesting if they checked out this section of the SacTV.com site. You go to SacTV.com, click music, get a long list of Sacramento artists who either originated here or went through here or ended up here. Some of them have moved on, like Ricky Berger and Adrian Bourgeois, both Sacramento names, but they moved to Los Angeles. And things like that. I didn't really know that. I didn't know they left town. But I knew that Anton Barbeau left Sacramento and went to Europe. He lived in places like London and Berlin. And I interviewed him when he was in Berlin as a musician there. And then he put out like dozens of albums, and he came back to Sacramento just in the 2020s. So that's an example of, yeah, you can make a big round trip from Sacramento to the global scene, back to Sacramento. Anyway, I'm going to keep expanding that section. I'm really having a good time researching it and finding out a lot more about local bands that actually put out a lot more music than I thought, like Jonah Matranga of the band Far, who was signed to Epic Records for a while. He put out a lot more local music and just, indie music than I thought. For a while he moved to San Francisco. Maybe he's still there. Anyway, lots of people in the local scene just put out a lot more recordings than I thought. So that's why it's fun to document it. Then I go back and listen to some of these videos, and they're really good music. Like, these are better artists than I thought they were. So anyway, it's exciting to me that I helped bring back the local scene in some kind of way that it's kind of reminiscent of the website I ran in the early 2000s. It was 1999. I started a website called Sacramento Music Scene with a business partner, and then we turned it into Sacramento's first internet radio station, and it became Sac Live. I was interviewed by the local TV stations about it, and that alone gave it an audience. Next thing you know, we had a happening website that was starting to get noticed all over town, and it was ahead of its time for the year 2000. Broadband wasn't mainstream yet, so it was kind of clunky to listen to and watch videos online back then. So the technology wasn't really up to speed at that time until 4 years later. So the site saclive.com only lasted like a year. We pulled it down, and it just was too far ahead of its time. But today, that technology, podcasting is pretty common. So it's pretty seamless now, but back then it was a bit clunky. Anyway, that's the local scene history for now. I want to get deeper into it, but right now I want to take you to my own music, which is a project called Sunsetrip, and this song is called Cold War Cola Wars. It's about how last century the Cold War dominated the headlines, while the Cola Wars dominated advertising.
Cold War, Cola Wars, learning the truth about the USA. Cold War, Cola Wars, maybe you know why they overthrew Chile. Old wars, Cola Wars, going back several war chants. Contracts with the government for overseas bottling plants. Cold War, Cola Wars, an attorney made a journey to the top. Handshakes behind closed doors, soon Soviets were addicted to sugary pop, pop, pop. American pop, pop, pop. Partners in the marketplace, rivals on the screen. Drama for a big arms race, backdrop to the pot, the culture scene. wars promoting perfect harmony. Cold War, Cola Wars mixed together in a chemical blend. Artificial ingredients can be very hard to defend. The invasion of Afghanistan led to the U.S. Olympic boycott. But the sponsor was soda pop, 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 and they chose to promote every drop, drop, drop. Cold War, Cola War's a game of expanding global trade. But don't change the formula or sales may soon start to fade. They say outspend your enemy, borrow from future's nest. Buy a big, big naval fleet, then let the weapons rest. Cold War, Cola Wars witness the fall of the wall. Unfolding metaphors, corporations standing tall. Cold War, Cola Wars, fast food on the rise. Cold War, Cola Wars, trickled in theory from the skies. Strategic defense initiatives, spending all that wasted cash. Whatever happened to the war on drugs, secret weapons hidden in the stash. Then came private prison stocks, even though crime was ticking down. Deregulation led to market shocks as markets bubble up and down. Cold War, Cola Wars led to boss changes for the machine. But the thinking was so watered down, it led to a new computing regime. Cold War, Cola Wars used to cost quarters in the machine. It's drinking all your money now, inflation is drowning everything. Cold War, Cola Wars, tracing back to pharmacies. So many true addiction prophecies, sugary drinks lead to disease. Cold War, Cola Wars, last call for alcohol. Cold War, Cola Wars, corporations standing tall. Cold War, Cola Wars, Cold War, Cola Wars. Cold War, Cola Wars, Cold